So it's been brought to my attention that it's hard to learn guitar if there's any joking around. So I dress for the occasion. This is a very serious matter. Uh, this is a second lesson in pentatonic scales with a song that I know for a fact you know. We listened to probably por lo menos 15 veces. So just a brief recap of pentatonic scales. We'll do one down here this time at the first fret, which is in the key of F, because the chord F is rooted right there. And the scale goes like this. So this will throw you off a little bit because this next song uses the third fret instead of the traditional second note in the scale, which is the fourth. Again, there's a reason for that that we're not going to go into, but we'll keep this nice and serious. So first I'll play it once, see if you recognize it, and then we'll go through it a little. So the whole song is some variation of that, but the inverted thing throws me off. But we'll focus on just the intro riff because it's cool, it's recognizable, and it shows you how much you can do with just like a tiny little piece of a pentatonic scale or some version of it. So let me get my angle down here. Okay. So it starts out, and I'm going to link a good tab here. This is just so you can kind of follow the scale. So you'll see a few symbols here in this tab that might be, if not new, things that we haven't talked about and you've probably already mastered, but just in case. The first is like the slash that goes between one number and the next. So you have it here between 1 and 3, and that's just a slide, which is a common way to make a scale sound fancy. So for example, if we jump back into the A scale that we talk so much about, here's what happens when you just start it. But here's what happens if you slide into it. And it's the same thing with our whole lot of love. You know, little slide gives it love. So Arctic Monkeys are really into that. The other thing is the H for hammer on, which basically means that instead of going like and picking it both times, you play that same thing but only pick twice, and you pick before the first indicated note, which is the 3, and then you hammer with your finger. Let's get a good angle here. So it's just like a nice hammer to give it that like rolling kind of melt into each other sound. So it's a pretty easy song actually. It's just about like getting the timing down, which you listen to it, you look at the tab, you go, hey, I'm actually doing this. And it's a tiny piece of the scale. I mean, you'll see you pretty much never leave the bottom 3 strings, and really mostly just the bottom 2, and really mostly just the first and third fret. So I've been racking my brain for a good song to sort of illustrate like, hey, you can actually think inside the box generally and it still sounds pretty cool. So here's an example of that. And then you go down the page and it's a lot of the same. And pretty easy to follow, but I would recommend just playing with that little intro piece, you know, until that feels natural, because that's a good sense of, hey, with some like slowing down and some hurrying and a little bit of and a little bit of, you can make something sound pretty funky, pretty full of love, so to speak. No jokes. So one more time, we'll get the angle good for you, and then I'll link the tab here at the bottom, and you can get a good look at some plants as we go through this. As well, our bonus for today's lesson, this is not a drill, first date I ever went on, not to intimidate you or anything, me and Cindy Crawford, so I have high standards, but make of that what you will. So anyway, with the fretboard, so we start right there on 1, right where it all starts. You can do it. I'm not even going to show off and play a solo because that's what jokesters do.